Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Om Agyantimandasya Gyananjalashalakaya Chakshunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamurpakaramayam Nudati Swavadantikam Namam Vishnupada Krishabhasa Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pachayane Nivashesha Shunyavari Parsata Rishatarine Vanchakapa Tubasha Kripasinuvevata Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If it wasn't for the fact that today is the day when Prabhupada left India to go to the Western world and preach, I probably wouldn't have agreed to give the class today, because I'm also a little tired after yesterday. But I could not resist, because Prabhupada, to talk about Prabhupada is one of my favorite topics. And so we'll keep the Bhagavatam verse very brief today, and we will just dedicate whatever time we have left to Prabhupada. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 20, verse number 14. Tani chai kai kash. Tani chai kai kasha tastum. Tani kai kasha tastum. Asamatani bautikam. Asamatani bautikam. Samhatya Daiva Yogena. Samhatya Daiva Yogena. Haimam Andam Avashijan. Haimam Andam Avashijan. Tani Chai Kai Kasha Shastum. Asamatani Bautikam. Samhatya Daiva Yogena. Haimam Andam Avashijan. Mataji. Tani, those elements, cha and eka eka sha, separately, shastum, to produce, asamatani, unable, bautikam, the material universe, samhatya, having combined, Daiva Yogina, with the energy of the Supreme Lord, Haimam, shining like gold, Andam, globe, Avashijan, produced. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Separately unable to produce the material universe, they combined with the help of the energy of the Supreme Lord and were able to produce a shining egg. No purport, so I'll read the next verse. For over 1,000 years, the shiny egg lay on the waters of the causal ocean in the lifeless state. Then the Lord entered it as Garbhadakshay Vishnu. From this verse, it appears that all the universes are floating in the causal ocean. That's all what Srila Prabhupada is commenting. So usually I would take another verse, but since I want to mainly focus on Prabhupada, I will keep the next verse for the speaker tomorrow. And I just want to make a couple of little comments, that as we probably all know, there's quite a few sections of the Bhagavatam which are rather technical. All these descriptions of the creation, and sometimes it gets a little tedious, at least for my humble self. Or there's even chapters where it's all the lines of, how do you say, the family lines, who had how many sons, and then they married that person. I mean, there's some chapters which is only delineation of the dynasties, right? And you start wondering, my God, and there's hardly even any purports there, So we may wonder, well, what is the purpose of all that? So according to my humble understanding, actually the purpose is to bring us to the point of surrender to the Lord. All these mentionings of the dynasties, they make it more authoritative and historic. When you read this, you feel, no, this can't be just some Vedic mythology or something. After all, why would anybody take the trouble to come up with all these names, right? So, it makes it pretty clear that these are historic facts, right? And it is all really the absolute truth. And then all these more technical parts of the Bhagavatam, again, they're meant to bring us to this understanding. Wow, Krishna is simply amazing, unlimited, inconceivable. I'm tiny, insignificant, so I better worship him and serve him and chant his glories and chant the holy name. Right? So actually we can understand the essence of all knowledge is actually simply to bring us to the point of surrender in devotion. All our studies, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, and they all have this purpose, that we turn in our heart to Krishna. Okay, I better connect, I better re-establish this lost and forgotten relationship. I better call out to him hopelessly and develop some love for him. That is actually the essence. And there is a nice statement in which purport is it? 425.62, where Prabhupada says, the platform of knowledge is advantageous because it is a means by which one may come to the stage of devotional service. However, if one takes to devotional service directly, knowledge is revealed without separate endeavor. So this makes it clear the position, of knowledge. That yes, it may be a suitable, means to come to the platform of devotional service, meaning really selflessly serving, developing a good service attitude, as we were saying yesterday, and chanting the holy name deeply, not just rattling down the numbers or something. So yes, but if one takes directly to that, actually knowledge will be revealed. No need for separate endeavor, Yes. So, because bhakti is not dependent on some intellectual capacity or something. No, actually it's the opposite. It can sometimes block a little bit, that we try and understand Krishna from our intelligence and others, Yeah, no, bhakti is not dependent on such kind of more material abilities actually to remember and to understand how it all works and how Krishna creates and. No, there's many. In India, Bangladesh, you find many illiterate, simple ladies in the villages, they don't have that capacity to understand all these things. No need. If such an illiterate lady just understands, okay, Krishna is amazing, if he can bring about a whole big banyan tree out of a little seed, my God, he can do anything. So I better serve him. I better chant his holy name. That's enough. That's actually enough. So this gives people like me some hope, because I'm not such a pundit, And there's another nice statement Prabhupada makes in the teachings of Queen Kunti. He says, it is not necessary to understand Krishna and how he creates. Krishna explains himself in Bhagavad Gita, and we should not try to understand much more. We should not bother much to know Krishna. That is not possible. We should simply increase our unalloyed love for Krishna. That is the perfection of life. Very nice. Yeah, because even whatever is described in the Shastra is not everything. Krishna is unlimited, his potencies and his energies, how he makes it all work. My God, our tiny little brain cannot comprehend that in full. No, not possible. Not possible. So, I guess this is why we can really say, and this is where I want to shift over to Prabhupada, glorifying him, that actually Prabhupada had this amazing ability. He knew exactly what we have to know in order to develop pure bhakti, He really extracted the essence, the very essence of the whole body of Vedic literatures and made that available in a very simple language, with practical application. And he just concentrated really on the essentials. So this is quite an amazing task Prabhupada actually performed, because really, the essence of the Vedic literatures, it was almost getting lost and forgotten, Yes, because it is such a vast body of literatures. And in this Kali Yuga, nobody's got the time and concentration. I mean, my God, especially as the Kali Yuga progresses, people are so distracted with technology and Facebook and phone, and people hardly even read anything. All they want to see is pictures and videos, and this will get worse, I mean, there's this famous joke: what's your favorite book? Facebook. So yeah, and this will get worse and worse as Kali Yuga progresses. People will not read anymore. Yes, this is a problem. Of course, some people will still read, but the general populace, their concentration span is so short. People are so restless, So Prabhupada just really made this genius contribution to humanity at large, to really extricate the essence for us and present that in an easily understandable language. And not only for the Western English-speaking world, but also for the Hindu community. I like to always emphasize this because I spend a lot of time preaching in Hindu communities in India and Bangladesh, Nepal, and so on. So if it wasn't for Prabhupada's books, people would be completely confused. They would not know what is right and what is wrong and who to worship. It's a whole kitchery, a whole hodgepodge there. People are completely confused and misled, with all these avatars and homemade avatars and babas and people are completely confused, Yes. So if it wasn't for Prabhupada's books, I mean, people would be just in darkness, even the Hindu community, So that contribution is really very outstanding. And actually, Srila Prabhupada, when he composed his commentaries, he didn't just come up with his own thoughts there, but no, he amalgamated all the commentaries of so many acharyas, Yes, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Six Goswamis, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushan, that Prabhupada refers to them all, So he did not just, come up with something himself or something, but not only did he extricate the essence of the Vedic literatures, but also of all the important commentaries, and he wove that together in a very nice way, amazing actually. And even just dictating all this, I mean, as you know, I make a humble attempt to also write. My God, just dictating. I can't even imagine how you can publish something like that just merely by dictating, because we do it all on the computer and we work through it and we change and we put things here and there, Prabhupada didn't do this. He just on the spot, spontaneously, of course, taking all the other commentaries in consideration, but he just dictated it. I mean, this is just amazing. This is really amazing. And Prabhupada was often saying, I'm not writing these books. Actually, Krishna is dictating to me, And that's really how Prabhupada served, that he was like the connecting pipe, simply connecting humanity of Kali Yuga with that nectar flowing from the Lord. Govinda Maharaj makes this point. He says a speaker should see himself as the connecting pipe, not thinking, oh, so much nectar is coming from me, just hear it all. But no, the nectar is already there, And the speaker is simply connecting his audience with that nectar, that eternal nectar which is flowing eternally. But as soon as the speaker thinks, oh, just see what I all know, then he acts like a blocked pipe. Not much comes through, just 1 or 2 little drops or something. So that's the importance of the purity of a speaker. Yeah, so, and also as we know, Prabhupada was often saying that his books are the law books for the next 10,000 years. So we may think, wow, that sounds almost like a bit of a proud statement or something, But no, Prabhupada did not say that in pride or something, but no, he just wanted to give us some glimpse into what he is actually doing here, Yes. And that's why, tomorrow on the Sunday program, I also want to talk about Prabhupada's position of founder Acharya, the importance of this. It's a very important topic, because especially all you young folks, you're the future of ISKCON. So we have to deeply understand what Prabhupada is saying, Yes, he's giving it all in his books. And we cannot succumb too much to this understanding, oh, this is not valid for the modern days or something. Sometimes this sneaks in. Why on earth would Prabhupada write all these things if it wasn't relevant for us? So all right, we don't want to impose things and confront people, with cultural barriers or something. And we want to pick them up where they stand, but we have to get them to Prabhupada's knowledge and Prabhupada's words, Yes. I for myself, I have, strong faith in Prabhupada's words. Yes, we have to, otherwise very easily the whole thing will get watered down and lost, Yes. Yeah, so in any case, there's also this nice little story where one lady after Bhagavad Gita class, she was asking Prabhupada, why is your Bhagavad Gita so popular? And Prabhupada gave this fantastic answer. He said, because it is not my Bhagavad Gita. And it is also not Bhagavad Gita as you would like it to be, or as you think it is, but it is Bhagavad Gita as it is. That was his answer. It is not Bhagavad Gita as you would like it to be, or as you think it may be, but no, it's Bhagavad Gita as it is, Yeah, so fantastic answer, Prabhupada always, he was never lost for words, He always hit the nail on the head, Yes, and we can see, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita has transformed so many people's hearts. And if you go in a bookshop, you find so many versions of Bhagavad Gita, but they haven't done anything to people's hearts, nothing. So, yes, there's so many things I wanted to say, but I can see already time is already half running out. Yes, let me just move to Prabhupada, how he prepared himself in India, in Radha Damodar temple. This is a very important place for us ISKCON devotees to visit, this Radha Damodar temple where it all started, where Prabhupada was preparing himself how to fulfill this impossible mission of going to the Western world. And there is this nice book entitled Our Srila Prabhupada, A Friend to All. Anybody of you knows this book, Our Srila Prabhupada, A Friend to All? It's really amazing because it is a compilation put together by Mula Prakriti Devi Dasi. She had this genius idea to interview all kinds of personalities who knew Prabhupada and met Prabhupada before he left to the Western world. And this was such an amazing idea, which she just got at the right moment, because she already left her body before the book was published. And so many personalities she interviewed also left their bodies. So she just, had this great idea. And this book gives really deep insights into Prabhupada's life, where we actually don't know much about that time when Prabhupada prepared himself, What do we know about that? Only what Prabhupada himself revealed. But a sadhu will never reveal the innermost secrets of his personal bhajan. He will keep them very secretly, So that's why Prabhupada did not share so many things. But this book, you have to read it. It's really amazing. Yes, because so many personalities from Vrindavan, from Mayapur, from Delhi, who had some connection with Prabhupada, they shared these amazing stories, which are really heart-moving. And we get some glimpse, into Prabhupada's time of preparation. Yes, of course, Satsvarup Maharaj in his Leela Amrita, he also talks about that something is there. But this book gives so much deeper insights, So, and let us understand, Prabhupada, there is these stories which reflect how poor Prabhupada was actually at that time. He almost was poverty-stricken. We don't even realize these things, There's this one story which one personality shares who lives in Delhi and who knows Prabhupada from the times when he used to come from Vrindavan to Delhi to publish his very, initial beginning Back to Godhead magazine. At those days it was not a magazine, it was like a newspaper actually. It was in newspaper format, some small newspaper, just thin pages, few pages, not so much, But Prabhupada had this vision to establish some kind of a newspaper, talking about the spiritual world and spiritual subject matters. There's so many mundane newspapers out there, so why not a transcendental one, And in a very humble way, he started this Back to Godhead, and now you see what came out of it, It's a fancy, glossy, colorful thing going all over the world, reaching so many people, So, and Prabhupada, he had no money. And he was trying to collect the money to print this Back to Godhead newspaper in Delhi. So he was traveling back and forwards, And this one personality shares this story, how he met Prabhupada standing outside a rich man's house, waiting. This was in summer, pretty hot. So, and he asked him, Swamiji, what are you waiting for? And Prabhupada said, I'm waiting for one man who wants to give me a 5 rupee donation. Of course, in those days, 5 rupees were maybe a bit more than now, obviously. So, all right, let it be 300 or even 500 rupees, the equivalent. So then the man went on his way. And after several hours, he walked past that house again. Prabhupada was still standing there, And he asked him, have you received this donation? And Prabhupada says, no, but I'm waiting for this man to come home, So, and then this man said, I can give you this 5 rupee donation. Actually, I can give you 10 rupees. And then Prabhupada answered, can you give me this donation every month? So we can say, I don't know if you have this program here, do you call it Nitya Seva program? Yes, where people give a donation regularly, every month, Yeah, same like in Bangladesh, we also call it Nitya Seva. Yes, so we can say this was the beginning of the Nitya Seva program. Prabhupada had this vision, that if people would just give every month a little donation, no matter how much, it would be helpful, So then this man felt so, pity and compassion for Prabhupada. He actually took him and bought him a new set of cloth also, because Prabhupada's cloth was old and torn. He just literally had no money, Yes. And and he's describing this, in this interview, in this book, So, and then also quite a few personalities in Vrindavan, they share how Prabhupada was distributing this Back to Godhead newspaper. And he would go in his bicycle and deliver them, And he had people who were getting it regularly. How do you call them? Subscription, He had people who had a subscription. So even that, Prabhupada, had that vision that yes, if people make a commitment to get it every time it comes out, this will be easier, So, and the funny thing is, Prabhupada's bicycle made some funny squeaking noise. The chain was somehow rubbing, People describe it some chicha noise there, We can just imagine, we know how old bicycles, sometimes there's some funny rubbing noise there coming, So, and all the children knew, Swamiji is coming with his newspaper. And they were all running home, getting some coins from the parents and picking up the subscription, And I am pretty sure that Prabhupada purposefully, he did not fix the chain there, This was his advertisement system, his miking system, like in India, people call it miking. They go around in the three-wheeler or rickshaw and they blah, 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 they make announcements. Yeah, this program is happening. Please come. Da, 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 da. That's the advertisement system in the villages, at least. The miking. So this was Prabhupada's miking. The funny rubbing chain there. Making everybody understand. So come pick up your subscription of the Back to Godhead magazine, So funny, So, but one thing we have to understand, Prabhupada's poverty was not ordinary poverty. It was not ordinary, It was actually a specially arranged thing, by Krishna, to deepen, Prabhupada's mood of being helplessly dependent on the Lord and his Gurudev and the previous acharyas. So this was a very sweet, deep, loving exchange between the Lord and Srila Prabhupada. That's how we have to understand it. Yes. It's not some ordinary poverty of, some beggar has no money or something. No. This is a very sweet and deep thing. And of course, it made Prabhupada even more glorious. If he had had a lot of money, then people would say, oh yeah, sure, he had money. Of course, he can spread this knowledge all over the world. But no, a personality who is so poverty-stricken that he becomes so successful in spreading this knowledge all over the planet. My God, that really highlights, Prabhupada's empowerment of the Lord, Yes. It highlights the Lord's glories and it highlights Prabhupada's glories. And in a very, magnificent way, you know. So yeah, we should not think that this is some ordinary poverty or something. And I mean, the first year of Prabhupada's, you know, attempts there in America, that was such a struggle for Prabhupada, you know. First year, Prabhupada was sometimes thinking of coming back again, you know. He already inquired when the next Jaladuta would go back to India, you know. Yes, because he was facing so many obstacles, so many difficulties, so many challenges, you know. There's this nice book, In the Beginning. This is also really nice. It is a big book with so many pictures of Prabhupada, and it actually shows Prabhupada's diary of this first year. In the Beginning, it's called. And it's quite an amazing book because the pages are divided, and half the page you see Prabhupada's handwriting of his personal diary, the entries he made, you know. And then, because sometimes it's not so easy to read, then the other half of the page is in printed writing, you know. Prabhupada's entries. That's heart moving when you read this, you know. Really, very, very moving to the heart. How Prabhupada was so struggling, you know. Like he kept records of every single donation and every tiny expense, you know. He kept record of it. That's a good reminder for us how careful we should be with Krishna's Lakshmi. You know, there you can see the entries where he says, yes, 20 cents for 2 bananas and an apple, or, you know, 30 cents for a postage stamp, or something like that. And then some entries, oh, today Dr. John gave me a nice second-hand coat. You know, so the hippies, they were giving him second-hand clothing, you know. And Prabhupada humbly accepted it. It is very nice and warm. Thank you very much. You know, such kind of entries you see in this book, you know. I mean, my God, you know. Yes. Yes, very hard-moving, you know. Yes. Yes, and then, I mean, let us also remember that in those days when Prabhupada prepared himself for this impossible mission in Vrindavan, you know, in those days, people, first of all, people did not travel so much, you know. There was not so many flights and all this. I remember first time I went to India, when was that, 87 or something? No, even 89, you know. There was hardly any domestic airlines. There was only Indian Airlines, basically. There was not all these Jet Airways and Indigo and Go Air and whatnot. They all did not exist. There was just Indian Airways, you know. So going back further, you know, 65, 68, nobody was flying back and forwards, you know. And for a personality like Prabhupada, an elderly man without any money at all, it seemed a completely crazy idea for him to ever make it to the West. Yes, it seemed such an unrealistic idea, you know. How would a poor man in his age make it to the Western world? Nobody believed it in America. In Vrindavan. Nobody believed it. No, they thought it was an absurd idea, you know. Yes. And, you know, also apart from that, the Vrindavan Vasis, they were not in favor of encouraging anybody to go to the Malacha countries of America, you know. No. They all wanted to stay in Vrindavan, you know. And for an elderly sannyasi, you know, should not even cross the ocean. So people were not very, Prabhupada's associates in Vrindavan, they were not very supportive of this idea at all, because they never even believed that it would ever happen, and they also didn't want to support it. They thought it was not a good idea. Why go to the Malacca countries where people kill cows and drink and smoke and all this? So that was the attitude. Of course, now everybody is so keen to go to the Malacca countries, so that just shows how Kali Yuga has advanced, Yes, but people were just not even believing that he would ever make it, and they were not supportive of it at all. And Prabhupada very well knew this, But nevertheless, he was just so determined and just so, prayerfully calling out to Krishna and to his Gurudev, to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, to somehow help him to fulfill this impossible mission. And in this book, Our Srila Prabhupada Fentor, there's so many nice stories. I could talk for hours. But anyway, there's this one little story, which again is so sweet and heart-moving. It was at the time when Prabhupada managed to print the 3rd volume of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, I believe. Yes, it was the 3rd volume. And he was in ecstasy. First canto is published. And he put so much into the first canto, so many long purports in the first canto, right? Because he wasn't sure how many more cantos will he be able to print, So this first canto was, to be published, was a real milestone for Prabhupada, And he was so joyful and full in ecstasy. So in Prabhupada, he was taking part in all kinds of sanghas there in Vrindavan. All these personalities are sharing this and, and talking about Prabhupada being part of these sanghas. And people had high respect for him, no doubts, Yes. But this thing of him going to America, they didn't take it so seriously, and they, never even believed it would ever happen. So then, Prabhupada joined this one sangha of all kinds of sadhus and personalities there, who he was regularly meeting with and having some Krishna Katha. And he brought these 3 printed books with him, first canto. So, and then at the program he joyfully announced, so today I got this 3rd volume printed of the Bhagavatam. And then he said, so you please bless these books that they will go to America and reach the people there. You please bless these books. And Prabhupada was passing around this stack of 3 volumes, and everybody, yes, we can bless the books, no problem. Yes, these books should go all over the world, They were all blessing the books, putting their hands on the stack of Bhagavatams. So, and then Prabhupada, in a very humble, but just so witty, mood, he said, so now you have blessed the books, but the books can't go by themselves to America. Somebody has to take them there. Somebody has to take them there and popularize them. So you please bless me that I can bring these books to America and popularize them there. And people were also caught in surprise, because they didn't have this mood of really wholeheartedly blessing Prabhupada to go to America, as I was sharing. They never even believed it would ever happen, and Prabhupada knew this. But nevertheless, he wanted to get their blessings, That's the Vaishnava mood. You don't want to do anything without the blessings of the other sadhus and Vaishnavas there in Vrindavan. yeah, so Prabhupada wanted to get their blessings. So in this sweet and clever way, he tricks them, you know. And the person who is describing this incident, he actually shares how his heart was so moved and transformed, you know, by Prabhupada's humility and sincerity, you know, to ask for these blessings. So then, after they all blessed the books, and then with Prabhupada's charming sweetness, you know, they just couldn't help but blessing Prabhupada to, you know, go to America and be successful in his impossible mission, you know. And this personality who shares this story is saying that, yes, he could feel something amazing taking place in his heart, and he could almost feel that, yes, Krishna, you know, empowered him and gave him some energy flew through him to bless Prabhupada. You know, yes, quite, you know, mysterious, you know. And he says, and in this way, I'm so fortunate that I'm also a tiny little part of Prabhupada's journey there, you know, by feeling that actually, yes, Krishna wanted me to bless Prabhupada, and some energy flooded my heart, and so on, you know. Yeah, so quite amazing, you know. And of course, the most amazing story, which I also wanted to share tomorrow on the Sunday feast, but I can't talk about Prabhupada's departure to the Western world without sharing the story also at this moment. This is also from this book, that actually, you know, Prabhupada used to go very often to Advaita Acharya's house in Shantipur. Already before he took sannyas, he went there regularly, and he spent all day there praying, chanting very deeply, you know. And this pujari who was serving there at Advaita Acharya's house, he shares this story in the same book. That Prabhupada used to come very regularly. And then all of a sudden, for some time, he didn't come anymore. And then one day, he came in saffron sannyas cloth. Before he was always in white. But then all of a sudden, he turned up in saffron there, chanting the whole day, very deep, with tears coming from his eyes. The whole day he was chanting there, praying, helplessly calling out. So then, at the end of, or towards the end of the day, Prabhupada paid his dandavats for a long time, you know. So, and then when he got up, he went up to the pujari, as he always was doing before on the visits, and he was asking thanking the pujari for his service at the special place of Advaita Bhavan, you know. So then the pujari, first time he asked Prabhupada, so who are you? I have seen you coming here for so many years, who are you? So then Prabhupada introduces himself, saying his name, his guru's name. And then Prabhupada says, yes, my Gurudev has given me this impossible mission to spread, you know, this Krishna consciousness to the English-speaking world. And I just feel so unqualified and helpless. I don't know how I will ever be able to fulfill this impossible mission. And then Prabhupada says, tomorrow I'm getting on the boat to travel to America. Tomorrow. So the day before, you know, Prabhupada spent the whole day like that. That's how he was preparing himself. So he said, tomorrow I will go on this ship, on the freight ship there, Jaladuta, and I have no clue what will before me there, what challenges I will meet there, you know. And that's why I'm simply praying in helplessness for guidance, for empowerment, that somehow or other I will be able to fulfill this mission, this impossible mission. And then he simply humbly asked that Pujari for his blessings, and he left. So, and then, few years later, that was maybe in the beginning, mid-80s or something, that Pujari saw, first time, Western-bodied Vaishnavas coming to Advaita Acharya's house, with tilak, sari, dhoti, bead bag, And he shares that he was never talking to any of them, but wow, first time in history, ever. Some Western-bodied devotees turned up there. So, and then once, one American devotee gave him a Back to Godhead magazine. A shiny, glossy one, not the newspaper style. So, and as he goes through the Back to Godhead magazine, he sees a picture of Prabhupada. And then he realizes, wow, he actually was successful in this mission of bringing this knowledge all over the world, And he was completely moved, that actually this sadhu who came here for so many years praying, and he had met him just a day before Prabhupada got on the Jaladuta, Yes. So, and then he came with that Back to Godhead magazine, he came to Mayapur to tell that story, And he says, yes, I realize he has gone by now, he has left this world, but I just wanted to share with you the story about you and my beloved Srila Prabhupada. That's what he said. Pretty heart-moving, Yes. Yeah, so, this day of Prabhupada's departure to the Western world, I'm so happy that you are aware of this, because in many temples this is not so much announced, and the morning classes are not in connection with this, but when I received the schedule, when I'm scheduled for the classes, and I saw, oh wow, Prabhupada's departure to the West, yes, I want to talk about Prabhupada and glorify him, Yeah, so it's very nice that you are aware and mindful of all these special days, and you allow that the morning classes are connected with this topics and so on. So that's very good and important. And yes, Prabhupada, his Vyasa Puja is coming up also. So Prabhupada's position is just so important, and we cannot emphasize Prabhupada enough and glorify him and deeply understand his mood and so, and yeah, please try and get a hold of this book, Our Srila Prabhupada, A Friend to All. If you can't find it so easily, there's one devotee in Adelaide, he's got an online bookshop. He's got thousands of books. I met him, I was completely impressed. He's got anything and everything, so I'm sure he can get you the book if you can't find it anywhere else, But it's really worthwhile reading this, even in classes for the brahmacharis and bhaktas and so on, You can go through the book, and this really brings us closer to Prabhupada and gives us some little understanding, we actually cannot really understand Prabhupada's position, really, but at least we can make some little effort, and there's so many deep and amazing stories mentioned in this book, which Prabhupada would have never shared with any of his disciples. He would have never said, oh, guess what, I actually, went to Advaita Acharya's house there even the day before I got on the Jaladuta. I spent all day praying there. No, of course, he would not say that. He would not disclose these things to anybody, And that's also an important instruction to us, that we also should not, talk about our transcendental feelings or experiences, because very easily this mood creeps in that we want to become a famous devotee. Oh wow, have you heard his dreams and this and that? So often people love to talk about their dreams they had and so on. But sadhu will never disclose such kind of personal, deep, intimate secrets, because that tendency to try and show off and be recognized as a famous devotee and, he's an Uttamadhikari and maybe eternal associate of the Lord or whatever. So this tendency is so subtle and deep there that we all want to be special and unique. So that's why we should never disclose these things, So, yes, and Prabhupada would have never disclosed these secrets. No, But by the mercy of this book, we get some little insights, about Prabhupada's way, how he prepared himself, how he was so poverty-stricken. I mean, as we know, he left India with 40 rupees. And these same 40 rupees he brought back, because in those days no bank in the Western world would even accept rupees. I remember that from my early days when I was going to India, and coming back with rupees, you can't, it couldn't exchange rupees in the bank, So he actually literally went without any money whatsoever. Wow. To another continent, other side of the world. This is pretty amazing. You boys are traveling and preaching. You imagine you're sent off with zero money, to start a temple somewhere or something. My God, we would say, hey, are you crazy? I need this, that, a van, and some manpower, and of course some money, and the card, the credit card for the temple, So, but Prabhupada, he went out without anything. His only wealth was unflinching faith in his Guru's order, in the holy name. That was Prabhupada's wealth, and a few books, a few copies of Bhagavatam, and so pretty amazing, really. So, all right, let us remember Prabhupada's glories on this special day. And tomorrow on the Sunday Feast lecture, I will also talk a little bit more about Prabhupada. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Savior of the whole world ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari.